Record. Perfect. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Danielle Clark with the Win-Win Woman Network. We are here with my beautiful friend and guest host, Kate Stacom. And today we're going to be talking about resisting the urge to fix it. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an intuitive life coach, psychic medium, spiritual teacher, business professor, and so much more. If you're here live, thank you. Make sure you hang out after the show. Kate and I are going to be offering live readings. If you're watching the replay, don't worry. It's the same good information and the same good energy. Onwards with Dr. Danielle is all about offering healing conversations to get you unstuck. And so it is. Kate, tell everyone a little bit about you. Hello.
Hi, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here, and especially with Danielle. I am Kate Stacom. I am a licensed clinical social worker with a specialty in mental health, as well as an evidential psychic medium and spiritual teacher. And I have the lucky opportunity of guest hosting Onwards with Dr. Danielle on the first Friday of every month. And I'm just so thrilled to be here. And just appreciate you always welcoming me to the community of Onwards. So
thank you. Yes, good stuff. So this is a topic that I personally identify with and also work with my clients on, is resisting the urge to fix something, right? Recently, I had a few scenarios where I found myself jumping in as the hero when a hero wasn't needed, right? What really was needed was more of an observer, more of someone to let go and lend an ear a little bit. And how I like to host Onwards is bring my lived experiences to the conversation, because if I'm experiencing it, that means many others are. So Kate, wanna hear from you specifically as a therapist. Can you talk to us a little bit about that hero complex, that need, that impulsive need that sometimes comes in where we feel like we have to fix something?
Oh, yes, I would love to. And I feel I'll also touch on, just as a mom and, a mom of two young kids, and I know that this just extends for years, but sort of that initial instinct to always fix, I feel, as humans, because we're so connected to each other, right? Energetically, heart to heart, we love and care for each other. We want to fix it because it's so uncomfortable to sit in the discomfort, right, of others. So that's the key here, is because our bodies are trained to react, trained to keep others and ourselves alive. It is incredibly challenging to sit in the discomfort of others, right? And so I always find, when I am able to frame it that way, right, rather than like, you're not able to fix this, or this isn't your problem to fix. Not always, right? That doesn't really, jive with many people. But the way I understand it is just, it's hard for you to sit with their discomfort, right? It's hard for you to sit when this other person is not comfortable. You want to fix it because it's uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And especially with someone like me, who I have past childhood trauma.
Yes.
I think that accelerates my discomfort with other people experiencing anything other. I overcompensate, right? I'm like, oh no, I know what pain feels like. I don't want anybody to ever have to experience any discomfort. And so I know I get there from a place of love, but sometimes it can hinder my ability to be in the present moment and the other person's ability to figure things out or experience what they need to experience for their learning. What other scenarios, other than trauma have you found that really accelerates someone's need to fix or take control or play the hero?
Sure. Well, I mean, I can think about, really any mental health symptom in general, right, would create vulnerability. But even not only that, any vulnerability that exists, right? Biological vulnerabilities, if you're not sleeping well, if you're not eating well, so if you're cranky and you're upset, for your own self, right? And so if you're just not having a great day and then somebody you care about has a really bad day, well, that's going to be a whole lot harder, right?
Yeah.
Because we need to take care. I talk about this. It's like we got to put the oxygen mask on our own selves before somebody else. So I would think any of those, in my line of work, it's the biological vulnerabilities as well as any emotional stuff that, that you might be moving through in your own life.
Yeah. And it's the empaths out there. A lot of my clients, similar to myself, similar to you, are empaths. So they feel the world deeply, right? And they're very sensitive to others' emotions and what others are experiencing. They're psychically linking in without even realizing it at times. And that's what I work with a lot with my clients, is helping them set energetic boundaries, right? Staying grounded and firm in their energy, being clear on what's theirs versus somebody else's. Because sometimes it's almost like we want to fix because we feel like it's ours, literally, right? Because we feel the pain or we feel the chaos. And I'm wanting to maybe talk about being an empath a little, because I think that can really, really help. When I think an empath and ways in which we can be a little bit more grounded. I think being in nature, I think meditation, I think just clearing throughout the day, right? Washing your hands intently, right? Like just taking that moment of saying, I'm washing my hands, like any energy that doesn't serve me, asking it to leave, slowing down a little bit, right? To kind of get those resets. If all else fails, a rock in the bra is great, right? Something that's just like energetically protecting you. What kind of advice do you give, Kate, to clients, or what do you do for yourself when you're an empath showing up in the world, so you're not feeling like you're taking it all on?
Definitely. I mean, I often just feel the check-ins, right? I talk often about this, of just being super mindful in the ways that you said, but ultimately be very mindful of where you are, where your body is, where your mind and spirit are, and what are they communicating to you, right? Our emotions communicate something, our body communicates something. So where are you today? How are you showing up in the world, right? How might that affect you and others as you relate to them? Okay. And then reacting appropriately, right? So maybe not adding tasks to your day that are not absolutely necessary on those cranky days, right? Because then we're just tipping the water over the cup even more at that point, right? So really tuning into those energy reserves as an empath, right, is only going to protect you from feeling like you're on overload all the time.
You're spot on. Yeah, I know me when I'm in control mode. Did you do this? Why did you do it that way? Right? When I'm nitpicking, it's exactly that. It's, if we looked at my day, it's because I've done 50 tasks, haven't, right, enjoyed a cup of tea or done a little me reading or done a walk. It's, I'm overflowing. And then I feel that things are so chaotic that I need to control, right? And I see that a lot with my clients too, or sometimes it's that unhealthy distraction. And I want to talk about that too. Sometimes it's easier for us to see the problems in others, right? Where we're like, okay, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to fix her, right? Or I'm going to fix this situation. And it's a way for us to forget, escape that there's like 50 things within, right, that we could be focused on, right? And yeah, what's your thoughts on that? How do you see that show up?
Well, I have an example actually
Yeah.
today in my own life. So
Okay.
this is a good personal one. So I have a 15-month-old boy son and then a 4-year-old daughter. And my son is so sick right now, just constantly irritable. And my nervous system is just right, like right on guard all the time. My daughter's bored and is like, Mom, when are you going to help me with, can you come play outside with me? Can you come play? And guess what my immediate reaction is? To try to fix her. You
Yeah.
don't need to be busy. You don't need me to play with you, right? So that just paints the picture perfectly. That's not about her, right?
Yeah.
And it actually took me to let my son be in his misery. Like I put him down. I knew he was safe. I said,
Yes.
okay. And I took a deep breath. I grabbed a cup of water and I went back to my daughter and said, you know what? That was mom. Mom's nervous
Mm.
system was, I mean, she understands it to a certain extent, right? Mom's body was
Yeah.
not able to really be present with you in that moment. And I'm sorry, because that wasn't your fault. That's not you. That
Yeah.
was me. And so that's just a reflection of like every day where this would show up with us, right? In our lives and with the people we live with.
I love that statement. It's not you, right? And kudos to you for acknowledging your role in that situation without making it a lengthy apology, right? Like it's not a thing, right? Like it's like you saw it, you're acknowledging it, right? Kind of getting her back to reality a little bit, right? So she knows. And I think sometimes we need to be quicker with acknowledging and moving on, right? It doesn't need to be this big thing, especially in those scenarios where what we're doing is out of love or out of survival, right? It's just us being imperfectly, perfectly human. Yeah. Yeah.
Trauma, right? We didn't even mention that, but right, our own nervous systems that we're working to rewire day in and in day out, right? It's a reminder of what they have been through. And so we're going
Yes.
to have those reminders, we're going to have those triggers, and we're going to want to fix it because it's so hard. So
Hard.
hard to sit with it. Yeah.
I had a win I was really proud of about 2 weeks ago. I was leaving a shopping parking lot and I'm in my car and this man, maybe 20, 21, 22, had a rough night, visibly rough night. You could tell he's not homeless, but it doesn't look like he went home the night before. He's kind of dirty. Maybe he got in a little scuffle the night before, hair disheveled, just sadness in his face. But his arm is displaced. It almost looks like it's out of the socket or something's broken, and he's carrying the weight of the world on his face, right? And so instantly, right, I put on the cape, right? I roll down the window, and I'm like, hey, you, I think I actually said like, hey, you, I see you, right? Like, are you okay? Do you want me to take you to the hospital? Like I'm yelling, right? And he looks at me and his eyes softened. I could tell like me just even acknowledging him, right? Because he had been walking. It was a micro healing moment for him, right? And he looked at me and he says, no. And then I looked at him again. I was like, hey, let me take you. And he said, no. And at that point, I rolled up the window and I left, right? And that was a win for me because I could have continued to repeat myself. I could have parked the car and like walked over to him, right? And been like, hey, listen. And I respected where he was at and didn't assume what he needed, right? I did a good heart-centered deed by saying, I see you and I'm here for you, right? Can I take you to the hospital? Can I take you somewhere? And he didn't want it. And that felt really good. Took me about 10 or 15 minutes to like energetically shake the situation off me, right? Because it was intense. And of course, I'm going to say thrilling, thinking about that I potentially could have been a bigger part of his story. That excites me. But it was good to be able to step away and detach. And within 15 minutes, I was back to my day without thinking about him. And I was really proud of that. I was really, really proud of that. I think the key there for me, for those, listening, and they know what it feels like to just want to help, right? Want to help their alcoholic dad, want to help their obese brother, want to help their, sister that always dates the, guys that they shouldn't, whatever the scenario is. For those watching, whatever brought you here, one of the ways in which I was able to resist that urge to continue to move forward, it really was a numbers game. After I did that, like that, I tried twice. There was something in me that knew, okay, it's not for you to lean in again, right? It's for him to meet you halfway. And I think that's an important takeaway for those who try to have the difficult conversations, to try to educate, right? You can try again. And I'm not saying 2 is the only number we're working with, but if you're on try 4, if you're on try 7, if you're on try 10, it's a good indicator that, that it's not meant to be. And I believe universe will let things flow as they should. And we need to believe that everything is happening in perfect timing, even though our human eyes and our human mind is saying, like, there's something more I could do.
No, and you beautifully said, first off, that's like such a fantastic example of when you said I might not even have what he needs, right? I might not be able to offer what he truly needs in this moment, right? Even though from the situation that was quite clear, well, you're physically, struggling, and so you need to go to the hospital. Perhaps the hospital would have been the absolute worst place for him at that time, right? And so that is part of the human experience of, I know this, right? I know that you should do this, and yet that might not always be the case. And so I do feel like it's like one of those, it's like a visual stop sign. Sometimes I use that in my work, right? Can we flash the visual stop sign perhaps before we offer help, before we fix it, before we feel we are going to fix it? Because most often too, people just need to be heard. Just like you said, just simply seeing you, hearing you probably was enough.
Yes.
Right? Just simply hearing before stepping in, before opting to fix things, that often is exactly what they need to shift and to create a new, something else out of it.
And I like to think, maybe, who knows, right? Maybe by me saying, I'm leaving now, right, in my mind, and driving away, he could have met his soulmate 10 minutes later, right? Like, and you just don't know. And I think when we can give the universe a little more credit, right? Like, universe is, perfectly timed, everything's in divine order, we can then let go a little bit, right? And it's, we're not always needing to fix things. And, even in my own life, right, I can go down the list of places where people thought they needed to save me, right? Well-intentioned, be smoking cigarettes. Danielle, you're killing yourself. Danielle, you should stop, right? And, the reality is, those comments didn't do anything for me. I quit when it was my time, right? When my intuition, when my soul was like, okay, Danielle, more self-love, more health, right? You can do this. And not saying that other people's care didn't help, but it definitely wasn't the tipping point, or not what I needed, right? Kind of somebody saying you should do this, or, or judging me, right? You're a mom, you shouldn't be smoking, right? If anything, that made my light dimmer and didn't give me the power I needed to eventually say, I'm worth it. I am going to finally quit smoking. And I think that's important with those listening, right, who kind of have that hero complex, is to realize, if you really do want to spark change, the question isn't, how can I control? or how can I judge or tell somebody what to do? It's giving them more love and light. So that way they have this big ball of energy and power to do what they need to do when it is their time to do it. So that way it sticks. So that way it's meaningful. And even something like smoking cigarettes, I think it's so interesting because there's so many ways or reasons that I wish I didn't smoke, but it brought many good things to me. My husband was a smoker. I was a smoker. If he didn't smoke or if I didn't smoke, maybe we wouldn't have first connected, right? Because there's that difference. And smoking also gave me tons of empathy as it relates to addicts. And in my work as a psychic medium and life coach, I can identify with addiction on a personal level. So I could go on and on about these quote unquote bad things. And I think if people realize that, that'll also help them resist the urge to fix something. Somebody might need this hard experience to help shape who they're becoming.
That's so beautifully said. What's also coming up for me is a situation where I was actually meeting with a medical provider, and she learned that I often, speak with teenagers. And so she was talking to me about her son who just seemed to not be doing so well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like spending more time in his room and like not connecting with friends as much. And as a mom, she was very concerned. And she said, "Do you mind if I sort of, ask your advice?" I said, "Of course not." And she said, I keep asking him to do these things, and it's just, it's the resistance wall was up, resistance, okay? And honestly, I said, it's as simple as this. Show him your love, offer him observations, right? And support. Okay. So keep showing the love, offer observations. Hey, I see you're spending a lot of time in your room more, right? I see that you're not talking to your friends as much. I'm here if you ever want to talk. There's a safe space if you ever want to talk. I will find you somebody else if you ever want to talk, right? And it's that. It's not trying to fix immediately, but it's offering the opportunity for when they are ready.
Yes, that's so good. I love the observations because there's no judgment attached, right? I'm seeing this. There's been a shift, right? I'm curious. Help me better understand this. I'm here if you want to open up. Those things are fantastic because, like you said, it creates this air of when I'm ready, when it best serves me, I am there. And without that judgment, which is a lower vibration, right? Judgment, right? You should do this, don't do this. I know how to do this better, whatever, that sounds like, curiosity and observations and support and love is a higher vibe, which gets them to be closer to their soul self. And that's something else I wanted to mention too. Oftentimes we want to control things when we feel like we don't have control, right? It's that easy, right? We want to control, we want to fix, when we feel like things are broken. And I feel like it's also a spiritual invitation, right? If we're always fixing something or thinking we need to fix, there's this limiting belief perhaps that things are broken. And that might be an invitation to lean into our spirituality, right? And kind of talk to the God of our knowing, right? Our loved ones in spirit. Like, hey, I'm feeling this world's a little broken right now. Like, what do I need to know? What do I need to understand? What love can you give me? And those feeling like they don't have power, I want to invite the power of prayer, because we forget how powerful we are. And if it feels right to someone, calling in the best intentions for someone, right? And holding space and sending love and light in the form of prayer for a minute, for 5, for 10, right? It doesn't matter, is us exerting our power. And if it's in our belief system, that beautiful energy will be received, right? The angels are going to pass it over. Our loved ones are going to pass that over. And I don't want anyone to ever feel like things are broken or they don't have power. And with prayer and spirituality, opening up, however that works for you, can really then get you realizing it's almost the human 3D kind of stuff that feels broken or constraint, but it's unlimited potential once we move to the 4D on the spiritual side of things.
For sure. Yes. And that's the surrender,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
That's it, right? That's exactly what you're describing, is like the power in simply acknowledging, yet not doing anything. I mean, we can actively surrender, right? But
Yeah.
if you want to think of it as an action, that can be, because some of us are wired that way, right? I need to do something. Okay, so you can surrender, right? That is something you can do. Not something you don't have to do, but so there's so much beauty in that. There's so much growth that comes out of that. And what you see too is the energy, like in the world, it comes full circle, right? People, because that they are on their path. That's their journey. I talk about that in relation to the trauma I went through with my daughter's birth, right? And postpartum. And I always say that, like, that is her, I couldn't control, right? We can't control that. We cannot control health. We can't control other people's lives, right? But we can control how it sits with us, right?
Yes.
We can control how we support our own selves through it. So if we're having those feelings, those instincts, that gut reaction to just fix, that is the ultimate time to sit in to the power and to find your soul, right? Get as close as you possibly can to you in those moments that you want to be so attached to them.
Yes, right? I love that. And I think it's so beautiful how you said there is power in letting go, because especially here in the States, right? I mean, it's all about how much can we get done and plowing through, and right, I got 49 out of the 50 things done on my to-do list today, right? Like, we're wired that way, right? Yeah. It's like do, go, go, go. And the reality is taking a pause to surrender, to let go, that is action, beautiful action, right? And can create a lot of peace and unexpecteds and beautiful things coming in, right? It's like when we're in the shower and we give ourselves that beautiful 5 minutes, and all of a sudden the best ideas come to us because we finally let go a little, right? We finally decided to take a little break, and then all of a sudden the right things hit us, and beautiful timing. Kate, this was a really timely, needed conversation. Thank you so much for showing up for me always. And of course, this very special chat about resisting the urge to fix. Thank you.
And wonderful. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome.